Fala aí, galera. Como é que vocês estão? Tudo bem com vocês? No vídeo de hoje eu vou falar que Little Nightmares 3 chegou com um novo preview. Que tanto que, de modo cooperativo, esse jogo ainda continua mais aterrorizante. E tanto que a Bandai Namco resolveu manter a atmosfera sombria e sufocante. E agora nós podemos encarar vários cenários sombrios agora. Em um desses cenários sombrios aí, que vai aparecer no vídeo, vai aparecer o terceiro chefe do jogo, que é o Homem de Terno Roxo, que agora ele vai aparecer aí no vídeo, nessa preview. Tanto que eu esperei tanto por esse momento, tanto por esse dia de ver como é que é o visual dele e como é que é o boneco que ele carrega. Então, vamos lá.
Titles have been seeing something of a renaissance since It Takes Two took home Game of the Year at the most public show of our medium in 2021. Where for a while players were generally either playing by themselves or in large lobbies, we now live in a golden age of two-player adventures that offer much more tailored experiences. And this is even starting to leave the action platformer genre to experiment with other genres, including horror. Where the first two Little Nightmares titles were solo affairs, this latest bad dream won't leave players on their own. Nightmares 3, now coming from Studio Supermassive Games of Until Dawn fame, follows a similar enough format to the first two. You play as a young character trying to escape the Nowhere, specifically the Spiral, a particularly deep subrealm, a surreal and terrifying otherworld made up of childhood fears gone grotesque. In this case, you'll choose between Lo, a boy in a raven mask wielding a makeshift bow, and Alone, a girl with goggles and a huge wrench she can swing about. They found each other while wandering through the hellscape, and have become close friends who will need to rely on each other to escape. Don't be fooled by the tools though. While the game does feature combat is not a prominent feature of this title, and you'll be much more often using the bow and wrench to solve puzzles than you will to down foes, which ends up becoming a puzzle in and of itself. Just as often, you'll still want to creep around foes, or in the most extreme cases, run for your life. I got to see this play out a few times during my extended demo, which took me through the dark, terrifying carnival level. My demo partner and I started on a gloomy pier and worked our way upwards, away from the water level. Tension built simply because nothing spooky was happening yet, but we knew it was coming, and both jumped a bit as scenery began to change. The demo didn't feature any jump scares, which is fine by me as I think jump scares are one of the major things that makes horror as a visual genre feel inaccessible, but rather a perpetual sense of creeping dread, an effect I think it pulled off beautifully even with people sitting next to me. Speaking of which, one element I want to mention is the nature of the game's co-op. Couch co-op has been deliberately excluded, and I see this as largely a neutral aspect of the game. Plenty of other major horror titles of the last few years, Phasmophobia, Lethal Company, even arguably Dead by Daylight, are made much less scary by the inclusion of other players. And I think that having someone physically sitting next to you is one of the most effective ways to take the teeth out of the genre. You have the option of playing alone with the computer controlling the other character, but I think the best way to play this is going to be for both people to be by themselves in separate rooms or even houses, trying to immerse themselves as much as possible. The game does come with a friend pass, so only one person will need to purchase it. Anyway, we eventually came up on the closest thing the game has to combat, a fight with several demonic puppets that Lo and Alone could not defeat individually. Instead, their heads had to be knocked off by a shot from the bow, and then Lo needed to distract the still-moving bodies while Alone smashed the fallen head to dispatch them properly. The bow and wrench are both very slow, and it was clear from this encounter that fighting should be a last resort and would not always be possible. Getting to the carnival proper shortly afterwards, we were met with much darker imagery that made the bright amusement park lights seem sinister instead of exciting. I won't get too deep into spoilers here, but the cooperative puzzle solving ramped up considerably, and I did have a blast with the other person even despite us both dreading what might be around the next corner. Co-op might have felt tacked on given that it's being introduced in the third entry of an established series, but it's baked in properly enough to Little Nightmares 3 that it instead feels like a natural evolution in the formula of the games, and probably the source of a solid twist or two near the end of the narrative. Little Nightmares 3 is coming at both a very crowded time in one of the busiest fall seasons that video gaming has ever had, but also the perfect time, 3 weeks before Halloween. I'm hoping that it delivers the consistent chills I got to see in this demo, because if the entire game matches this level of co-op excellence, there will be few better ways to spend your dark October nights. Little Nightmares 3 releases on October 10th, 2025 for PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox Series consoles, Nintendo Switch and Switch 2, and PC via Steam. Thanks for watching, and thanks to our supporters on Patreon for making our coverage possible. Go to patreon.com/noisypixel if you'd like to join them and receive our monthly digital magazine in addition to our eternal thanks. Noisy Pixel is an independent operation working hard to bring you news, reviews, previews, and more. Leave a comment below to start a conversation, come talk nerdy with us in our community Discord, and subscribe to keep up with all of our future content. Now, check out some gameplay.